Wow. What a beautiful place.
Now this never freezes.
The lake does. Yeah.
It does in the winter?
Yes, this is not sea, this is fresh water.
Oh.
It becomes our ice skating rink, our cross-country ski trail.
Really?
I kiteboard here in the winter and the summer. We snowmobile out there. We hike out there after work. We're pretty spoiled.
Okay.
So we can be at the face of it in about 15 minutes.
The water's all over there.
Yeah.
There's ice that looks like a fish.
Yeah, it does look like a fish. That's a good observation. Thank you. That's a fish iceberg. Yeah, that's Nugget Creek waterfalls from the Nugget Glacier. So this glacier is 13 miles long. We're only seeing about a mile and a half of it right now. We're seeing it about a mile away from the face. And remember I said we had this huge glacial flood called the Loop. It dramatically affected this area. Last week I was giving tours to the ice caves, which no longer exist as of last night. They were just around the left side of the glacier and kind of out of sight.
Okay.
And also you can see glacial succession with your own eyes. You can see mash. If you look, you see bare rock. If you look back, you can see moss. If you look back farther, you can see alder. And if you look back and up, you can see spruce, those pointed Christmas tree looking trees. So something to keep in mind, my grandparents were here in 46 and the glacier was right back there in 46. And when they were here, there was no lake because the glacier was here. So as the glacier receded in this direction, it exposed what is now known as Mendenhall Lake. It was filled with glacial runoff, rain runoff, and other glaciers running into this basin and snow melt. So it filled this lake. Well, a lot of people don't think about how that affects glacial recession. So every single day, 2 to 12 inches, this glacier advances down the mountain fed from the ice field above. And right now it's located on the lake. So gravity is pulling it downward. That is the force. The opposite force, the lake pushing up on it, is creating a fracture point, which creates a dramatic calving iceberg, which is much larger than 2 to 12 inches. So every week, giant pieces of ice will calve off, much larger than 2 to 12 inches, times 7 in a given week. So this glacier is receding much quicker than it's advancing because of that, but it has a positive story in sight. So the left side of the glacier, which you can't see from here, it's around that point, is at the far side of Mendenhall Lake. And that means we're not going to have any calving icebergs anymore. So we'll simply have this glacier receding ever so slowly up the mountain in reverse due to whatever warming trend we may have at that given time. But they actually predict in 10 to 20 years the whole face of the glacier will be at the far shore of the lake, which might cause this glacier to actually stabilize and not be receding anymore. So I'm not trying to minimize climate change, but all I'm trying to tell you is glaciers located on lakes and oceans are inherently going to be receding very quickly. Tidewater glaciers have the tide, ocean currents, ocean waves, and salt water dramatically making the icebergs giant. So that's going to affect it. By the way, usually we have about a quarter mile, at least we can walk, sometimes a couple miles. And right now this is still all flooded from the Loop. Usually we don't have a lot of debris up here, and that's all from the Loop.
So, exactly what animals could you find in this lake?
In this lake, believe it or not, that's a great question. So harbor seals, which we saw, normally live in salt water. I was kayaking here. This is a freshwater lake. We're miles from the sea. There was a harbor seal here. Harbor seals can live in the interior of Alaska. Lake Iliamna in northern Alaska has one of only 2 mating populations of freshwater seals in the world. But we also have salmon that are traveling through this area. They're coming up from Mendenhall Lake, going across Mendenhall River, coming up the lake and going over to Steep Creek over here. And that's pretty much it. You have some mergansers and some ducks and things like that, but that's pretty much it. Any other good questions?